Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Mighty Stream, and I'm going to be doing our May the 13th just for today in a meditation. I hope you're doing well out there. I do know that our recovery is so important to us today that it's worth getting up early to spend some time together to do it. So thank you for joining me. Welcome to all of the new subscribers. I saw just a boatload of new subscribers come in over the last week, and I'm very grateful for that. I don't ever want you to think I'm not grateful. The title of the meditation, Onward on the Journey. Onward on the Journey. It says the progression of recovery is a continuous uphill journey. Now that comes from our basic text, page 83. The longer we stay clean, the steeper and narrower our path seems to become. But God doesn't give us more than we can handle. No matter how difficult the road becomes, no matter how narrow, how winding the turns, there is hope. That hope lies in our spiritual progression. If we keep showing up at meetings and staying clean, life gets, well, different. The continual search for answers to life's ups and downs can lead us to question all aspects of our lives. Life isn't always pleasant. This is when we must turn to our higher power with even more faith. Sometimes all we can do is hold on tight, believing that things will get better. In time, our faith will produce understanding. We will begin to see the bigger picture of our lives. As our relationship with our higher power unfolds and deepens, acceptance becomes almost second nature. No matter what happens as we walk through recovery, we rely on our faith in a loving higher power and continue onward. Just for today, I will accept that I don't have all the answers to life's questions. Nonetheless, I will have faith in the God of my understanding and continue on the journey of recovery. Let's take a moment of silence, followed by the we version of Serenity Prayer. Moment of silence now, please. Thank you, God. Grant us the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Just for today, please, and thank you. The progression of recovery is a continuous uphill journey. I feel like that statement there is something that should be a given. Like I should understand that without questioning it. It should be a fact. It's a given. It makes sense. However, I really feel when I'm talking about progression, I'm talking about moving beyond the point or where I'm standing right now, right? Or the situation, progression, right? Um, if today I weigh 222 pounds, progress for me would not be waking up tomorrow weighing 230, right? Progression is a movement, generally speaking, in the positive direction. Now, when we're talking about numbers like that, progression for me is moving backwards, right? Moving into a healthier weight. So waking up tomorrow and weighing 220 is progression from that perspective. From another perspective, progression may mean something else. In most instances, it means moving further or higher. All right. When it comes to one's weight, right? For most people, it's moving backwards to a lower number, right? For people that struggle to carry some weight, it's moving forward, it's moving up in numbers. If you're a 30-year-old woman and you are weighing 95 pounds, you probably, and you're, 5'5", you probably need to gain some weight, right? Okay, so it's about perspective. So progression of recovery is a continuous uphill journey. That to me is such a definite statement that sometimes is not always factual. It's not always the case, depending on the perspective. For instance, this uphill journey, I'm understanding that that's going to have some resistance, right? There's going to be resistance at some point in time in our lives. And that's what this meditation is talking about, right? Things will come up, but no matter what comes up, God doesn't give us more than we can handle. Some people will debate that with you all day, right? I am of the belief that if I am in it, I'm in it to win it. And if I'm in it, then there must be the assistance of a higher power to help me get through it. Because I don't believe, spiritually speaking, that I will be allowed to go into any situation that my relationship, my faith, my relationship with the God of my understanding cannot keep me. All right. So I believe that whatever I'm going through, I can get through, or else I wouldn't be in it. Right. Not everyone believes that. Now, I know people that have suffered major catastrophe, and nobody, not even myself, could make any good sense out of it. I couldn't bring myself to say that that was God's will. There was nothing that made sense about that other than being in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? So to be able to say, you know, I won't be able to be given more than I can handle, that is ideally speaking the state of mind we want to be in, because that state of mind births hope, right? But if you are not in a position to have that state of mind because you have been uh, beaten, you have experienced so much trauma, you are not a hopeful person, you're a pessimistic type person, you are disgusted with the concept of a higher power. If that's your story, then this story is going to be one that you're going to have to stretch for or work for, right? But I can tell you that I was not always this hopeful. I didn't always have this much faith, right? There's times like today, I have to begin to see the bigger picture of my life. I have to, because when I look around in my environment and I look outside my front door and I look at the chaos that has happened as a direct result of these tornadoes, and the damage that we've sustained is far less, right? Far less than the damage. I would say the financial damage is greater to me because I was displaced and had to get a hotel, right? Because of the power lines. But I don't have a roof that I have to cover over in order to be able to use the room in the house and not have a leak. I don't have that situation. I have some exterior damage, right? But when I look around at the way that the trees fell, I can only say how protected, and I believe it's because my boys were in the basement praying, right? That's what I believe, right? But when I consider everything around me, do not think your girl is not overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed, right? It's all I can do to be able to get up and do the next right thing for the right reasons. And sometimes those things are things outside of myself, service commitments that I've made, relationships that I have. a desire for myself to be able to provide more and better for my family, right? And so in the position in which I'm in, where I'm standing right at this moment at 5:29 a.m. on May 13th, the progression of recovery is a continuous, hard uphill journey. However, I do have my lived experience that tells me I will survive. If I continue to do the things that are about living and not dying, one, not picking up drugs, two, not abusing other people, three, maintaining, not least of them all, but maintaining a connection, a conscious contact with the God of my own understanding, right? Staying meditative and prayerful, right? Um, Proper sleep, eating right, exercising, removing sugar from the diet and putting the things in the diet that I actually, at my age, need. Calcium being one. I can't stand. I cannot stand most things that have calcium in them, especially if they're dairy, right? So being able to move more into eating green, right? I have to do these things because at my age, we begin to deteriorate. And the goals that I have set are going to need longevity. So I have to make some changes. And the same thing goes for you. And there's no exception, right? But the point being is that with the feeling of overwhelming circumstances, I already know that if I keep, listen, if not only if I keep moving forward, because some movement forward is not a physical movement forward. And it can barely be seen because it's movement that feels like the momentum of a snail. You can barely, unless you put all the frames together one by one, see that this snail has moved anywhere. And I want to say that to somebody. I want you to understand that sometimes just holding ground, I'm not talking about being complacent. I'm talking about just holding ground and allowing yourself to regroup and reset, right? Before you make a decision, before you go to the next project, allowing yourself to stabilize where you're at in the moment so you can recalibrate the situation is progress. Because if you're anything like I am, and I go back to my before NA days, right? My using days, anytime I saw something that was unsurmountable in my mind, I was already defeated at the first thought of it. I had already projected failure. And so using just made sense. I need to make this feeling of failure feel better. And today we just don't have to do that. Today I can hold ground. And don't worry about who is trying to tell you what you need to do different. If you need to hold ground to recalibrate and make sure you do not relapse, go back to your old way of doing things, go back to your old way of lying and cheating and stealing and manipulating and lying by omission. And if you need to just hold ground right now, hold ground, that is progress because back in the day, you would have done something different and we wouldn't have seen you for a whole nother year or two, right? The kids still would have been waiting for you to come home with the milk and the bread, right? And so today we don't have to do that. And I want to encourage you that way. Onward on the journey, right? Onward on the journey sometimes means that you rest, sometimes means that you stand still and acknowledge what is around you. It's just like that GPS, right? No one can come help you unless you can actually tell us where you are. Now, my brother came to town the other day in his semi. Oh man, leave it to Mighty Stream to try to look in somebody's semi, your brother's semi. I fell out of that thing. Let me tell you something. I don't want to tell the story about falling out of his semi. Let me share this with you and let you go, okay? He came to town unexpectedly. He caught up with a relative of mine and we were doing an event downtown, right? And so we had our business table out and a lot of our staff were there. And I don't do too much on the weekends. That's all I really have, right? And coming through the tornado, I definitely wasn't expected to be there. But when I got the phone call that he was in town, I was just kind of blowing it off. I was just like, he's just checking on me. He's like, no, I'm in town, right? So, oh, he's in town. I thought it was just one of them phone calls checking on me about the tornado. So something said, mm, you need to share this moment in time because you may not get it again, and you need to get out of your comfort zone. Even though you just got home into your house, you need to go and acknowledge him, which meant driving about 8 or 9 miles. But you know what? I had to ask him, where are you? Get the street address that you're at. Tell me what you see, right? And he sent me a picture of him and my niece and the building behind them. I recognized the name of the building, the address, and I knew exactly where I needed to go to get to him. I knew exactly where I needed to go. He's not from here, but he had enough sense to take a selfie with the address behind him, and my niece could actually tell him, right? But when I saw the address, I said, oh, I know that building. I know exactly where I'm gonna park. I'm gonna park as far away from where they're at and walk up to them. And that's exactly what I did because I wanted to be able to get in and out. I didn't want to deal with traffic. But when I knew exactly where he was at, I was able to get to him. That's how recovery is. Sometimes you have to stand in your moment, in your situation, and acknowledge, you know what? This is a jacked up situation. This is a jacked up job. This is a jacked up relationship. This is very good. I'm enjoying this part of my life. I love it. I love the feeling after I do my prayer and meditation. I love the feeling of that. I don't like the feeling of that. I'm not accepting this. I'm changing that. This is okay. This is not okay. And I know what I can change, and I have the wisdom to know the difference. It's okay to stand there in your moment, rest in it, and recalibrate, analyze where you're at. Because in doing that, that is when you're able to progress with your recovery in a continuous uphill fashion. And it's far more enjoyable when you've taken the survey, right? You surveyed the land and you've been able to say, now I see what's going on. Oh, I see that character defect coming up. Oh, yes. Okay. Not this time. And move forward in your journey with that. You can do it. I believe in you. My name is Maddie Stream. I'm going to have a beautiful day on purpose. You do the same.